Hey guys, this is my tutorial on my as promised makeup for a model casting video, I guess, but this is also just a really nice tutorial in general. It's kind of like my date night makeup and also just, you know, days where you just want to feel a bit nicer and a step up from kind of natural. Like I said, the makeup does look a little dramatic here, but in a casting or in a setting where somebody's using flash photography on you, eye makeup always comes out a little lighter, so this would actually come out exactly like my picture. Like I said, just enhancing the features that you have already and not kind of piling on too much makeup. I wouldn't recommend going for anything with harsh lines or trying to fake something you don't have, because it really shows up in flash photography. To me, it doesn't really matter what foundation you use. I've used ones with SPF, high SPF, no SPF, and if it's a good photographer, then they're going to adjust the light settings themselves and your face should come out beautifully anyway. I would recommend to stay away from any harsh lines like black eyeliner, things like that. There's other ways to bring kind of definition and more attention to your eyes, as you can see here. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial and I'll see you at the end of it. So I've already prepped my face with some illuminating moisturiser. I'll leave it in the down bar along with the video in where I kind of show how to use it and a few other ways to get kind of radiance to your face. In this tutorial I'm going to be using Estee Lauder's Double Wear Light. I really like this foundation because it's a medium to sort of light full coverage, but I find that it's really flawless. It covers everything but at the same time lets my skin sort of show through, and just it's a very lovely satin finish. I don't feel like I need to use powder with it, so I've just dotted on my face in the places that I want the most coverage and where I kind of want to place my foundation. And with this really cheap flat top kabuki, it's a synthetic one, it works really well with this foundation. I'm just making sure I blend everything into my neck and then sort of around my cheeks where I want pretty good coverage. I tend to kind of pat, I guess, with the brush and kind of dab into my skin rather than kind of swirl around. I like to work the product really well into the skin doing this. I didn't actually put any foundation on my forehead. My forehead's quite tanned compared to the rest of my face, so I tend to just leave it alone, and I think it gives a nice natural finish too. I just use whatever's on the brush and feather it in towards my forehead at the temples and in between the eyebrows, and this is sort of the kind of desired effect. Next up, I'm using a MAC Studio Sculpt foundation. Again, a really nice gel-based foundation, and I'm using literally the tiniest bit on my fingers and sort of placing some of the product in where I want to contour and create a bit more of a shadow and just kind of overall make my face look a bit slimmer without using a powder. As you can see, a tiny bit on my finger has done pretty much nearly everywhere that I want to contour, up on my temples, also just a little bit down the jawline, ever so slightly. You don't want to look like you have a foundation line, and a little bit on the chin and of course on the other jaw. Now using the same foundation brush, there's no kind of method to this. I just sort of start by kind of spreading the product and then sort of dabbing it and again pushing it into my skin as I did with the foundation, and really just feathering it out, making sure there's no harsh lines and that it's really soft, bringing it up to the temples again, and as you can see it's just a really lovely natural finish. The other side of my face is not done yet, so I'm going to go ahead and buff that in the same way, and also buff in those tiny little dots I made on my nose. And yeah, that's kind of what it looks like once it's all done. So as you can see, I have a lot of waste. Next up is Collection 2000's Lasting Perfection Concealer. Now usually I wouldn't use this concealer because I think it can be a little bit thick, but for under my eyes I'm just going to use it today, and a little bit around my nose because I've run out of my other one. But yeah, I just take it up on top of the cheekbone as well, just for added highlight. And I prefer to use a brush around my nose, and as well whatever's on the brush I like to take on in the inner corner of my eye, just to get rid of any kind of shadow or darkness that you might have forgot to cover up. But for my under eyes, I just like to dab because it takes off any excess product as well as really working it into the skin. And I also just take whatever's on my finger to lighten up any dark areas around my mouth and chin. In my Sleek Storm palette, I think, I like to take the brown and the black and just go in and define the top half of my brows, kind of like around the arch area. I don't like to go in and fill in all my brows because my brows are quite dense anyway, but just anywhere where they're a bit sparse I like to slightly fill in, as well as kind of straightening up the inner corner of my eyebrow too. As you can see, I don't mind a few straight hairs. I prefer the sort of youthful, high fashion look to brows, and I know some people are going to hate the fact I do that, but it's just the way that suits my brows the most. Now with this Sephora crease brush and a little bit of MAC's Harmony contour sort of blush colour, it's a really similar colour to my natural sort of shadows on my face and my natural contour colour. As you can see, it was like the exact same shade as the kind of definition that was already inside my crease. So I'm just using this to do kind of window wiper motion with my Sephora crease brush and basically just create a really light defining of the eye with this brush. Next up, I'm using MAC Signed and Sealed. Now, one of you told me this was discontinued, which is really depressing. Basically, I'm going to take the same brush and just barely dip it into the product. Now, this time we're not going to do any window wiper motion. We're literally going to take that little bit of product we took and just dab it into that outer corner of the eye, at the very edge of where we put the previous shadow. If you need to do a tiny bit of blending, feel free. But I find that just keep dabbing, and if you need to blend, just keep the brush in the same place and sort of wriggle it around. You really don't want to start bringing this dark colour into the crease. It's just for an outer corner sort of definition. With the same colour again and this sort of thin angled liner brush, I'm taking the same dark Signed and Sealed and sort of just lining my eyes about from the middle of my eye to this outer corner and feathering it out, so you should kind of have a thin line that sort of blends out into nothing and blends out into all the same colour that you put there previously. You shouldn't really see any harsh or defined lines. And now using just whatever's on the brush, I like to take a tiny bit into the bottom lashes as well, not coming in too far. Again, just for a tiny bit of definition. Now with my favourite mascara, it's Shiseido's Perfect Mascara, I'm doing a kind of a nice lengthening coat of mascara on both lashes. You don't want anything too spidery or too clumpy, but I find with this mascara the first coat is great for lengthening, and then I do a tiny little second coat on the outer lashes just to make it a little bit thinner and sort of just make your lashes look a bit thicker on the outer corner. Now taking a number 7 product, this is the clear eyebrow gel. Well, it's not clear anymore, but it was, and I'm just running this through my brows. It just helps to keep them in place and also makes them look a little bit less chalky after putting powder in them. Next, another number 7 product is the creamy lip liner, and this is definitely an exact match for my lip colour. It just makes them a little bit better, evens them up a bit. And now with this NYX matte lip cream, I'm putting a little bit of this. This is kind of like a brownie pink, again a very My Lips But Better colour. Try and go for something that will match your actual lip colour and just bring out your natural features. But after I apply that, I'm just going over with my like a dry clean finger just to take off any kind of excess product and make it look a little bit more natural again. So this is the finished look. It's just very romantic, very girly, and brings out all your natural features, and you can use this for picture day or interviews or anything like that as well. For this tutorial today, guys, please hit that like button if you did, and of course subscribe for more videos.
To never forget what happened.